Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello everybody at home and welcome to Houselights, specifically Wing of King Arthur, where we're taking a look at an interpretation of King Arthur from every single decade starting in the 70s?
60s, but the
60s.
Wolfgang
We started
Peterson.
in the 60s.
Or-
Yeah.
Yes. And we're in the 2000s now. And the director this week is Antoine Fuqua. And we're talking about 2003's Tears of the Sun, starring Bruce Willis. Oh wait, no, that's right.
Yeah.
It's the movie King Arthur in 2004. I'm sorry, I get those two movies confused all the time. Maybe because they have the exact same plot. But this week, I am super excited to talk about this iteration of King Arthur as we analyze this character from a different director's lens.
Iteration's a good word. We're going to talk about that. But
Yeah, we will.
What you just heard, it was the voices of my co-hosts, Darren Moser and John Mills. John, how are you doing tonight? And when was the first time you saw this movie?
This is the first time I saw the movie. Just very shortly before we recorded is when I wrapped up. And I'm actually very interested because we're going back and, we're going Wing of King Arthur here. But what's really interesting is, and I think this will be an interesting back and forth, we have the last two of these movies now are not directed by Brits. So it's interesting how that could potentially speak to the universality of the Arthurian legend and how people approach it. But I'm also very interested to find out what my good friend Darren thinks of things because he and I were very much simpatico last week. I wonder if we are this week as well.
yeah, definitely don't. I'm going to go last. That's just all I'm going to say. I'm going to go last this week. But same for me. This was the first time watching this movie. I literally watched the last hour of it during lunch today, fit it in. But I was joking before we started recording. When I sat down to watch this, I just kind of chuckled to myself going, it'd be really funny if it started with like an opening crawl of text explaining, oh, look, there it is. Why am I kind of not surprised? And then they doubled down and had the voiceover narration as well. So they're like, what are two totally separate ways that we could combine to explain what we're doing? Because this was interesting. It's in Roman times, okay? And I didn't know that Arthur was a Roman. Yeah, that was really interesting.
I love how the crawl at the beginning says something like, historians agree, and then they list it, and then I'm just like, no, they don't. No, they don't at all.
Yeah.
Just because you put it in an opening crawl doesn't mean that
5 out of 6 historians agree that, we're making this up as we go along.
All right. Now, the thing is, there are some wacky because the thing is, I finally was motivated to do a little reading, which, boy, that's just a sacrifice I'm not usually willing to make for these shows. But it is interesting that, I mean, obviously, it's just a conceit to try to give it the air of authenticity. It's like, oh, right. No, we're telling you the real story of, it's no more or less real than we found this footage from Montgomery College film students in the woods, and there's a witch.
It's a step above what Fargo did when they said that it was based on a true story.
Right.
It was completely not true at all.
Yeah. But, as I was reading through, there are some historians or authors at least who are now exploring that sort of, I would say, cable news channel tactic of writing books with question marks at the end so that it's like, was Arthur really a space alien who rode the Loch Ness Monster ? And it's like, it just reminds me of this sort of thing of, I read a book recently called 1421, and the whole thesis of the book was that China had actually conquered the world before any European had ever even tried to circumnavigate the globe. And like, as you read through it, you're like, there's not a shred of evidence for this. Like, what are you going on, dude? So I can forgive
wing
the
and a
film more
prayer.
than, I can forgive the film more than the books for that sort of thing. I don't know why they would. I'm not a fan of using both narration and a crawl. It's like pick one, stick with it.
Pick one or the other. Yeah, absolutely. And before we get too deep down the rabbit hole, I do want to talk about the director a little bit, because Antoine Fuqua, the first movie, like he came from, like Fincher, he came from the music video realm, and that's how he got his start. And then his first film was The Replacement Killers, starring Chow Yun-fat, and that is a completely underrated movie. Like if you guys, if you guys or if the listeners haven't seen The Replacement Killers, absolutely check it out. It's super 90s and it's awesome. And
I agree.
But he made probably his most notable work, and what really solidified him as a name, is 2001's Training Day, starring Denzel and Ethan Hawke. I mean, that movie was a step above.
Yes, that movie is incredible. And that is an example of it. When a director comes out with a movie like that, you put his name on something and I go, okay, paying attention.
Right.
I'm absolutely going to, I will at least give this guy a chance to disappoint me, because he wowed me so much that one time. It's earned him a pass for the rest of time. And the thing is, he's also tied to the Equalizer series. And that's some righteous action going on there.
I haven't seen any of the Equalizer movies.
Oh,
but the third
the
one,
first
I saw the trailer for the third one. I was like, maybe I should watch these.
he also did the 2016 The Magnificent Seven, which, for a remake of a very classic movie, my wife and I watched it. We actually enjoyed it. It's a nice, kind of fresh take.
It is a fresh take.
They are Romans. I'm just saying out of the bat, like they didn't.
Well, well, the thing is, though, I'm glad you bring that up, because Magnificent Seven, there's a vibe that's very similar, where you feel like there's a little bit too much oversight of Fuqua. Like there's a little bit too much of sitting on his shoulder, looking over his shoulder, because in the notes about this, Fuqua hated the experience of making this movie, because he felt that Disney was way too much in his business.
Yeah.
And I think very much with the Magnificent Seven, there's so much stuff that's legitimately, there are these really terrific moments and impulses, but it feels like a producer came in, or an executive producer came in and said, no, we're cutting a ton out of this.
Which is kind of odd, because he was an executive producer for the Magnificent Seven. So I don't know if he just had burned through his capital, like political capital, or how that went down. But that one is, looking through his list, I'm like, oh, he's actually got quite the resume. But like you said, Training Day was like, that's the big push.
And whatever you think of some of these movies, I mean, you recognize these movies like Shooter, Olympus Has Fallen,
Tears of the Sun,
Equalizer, Tears of the Sun. So that was the joke that I was making at the beginning, because here is the here is the IMDb summary of Tears of the Sun for those of you who haven't seen it.
Yeah, I know where this is
Special
going.
Ops Commander leads his team into the Nigerian jungle in order to rescue a doctor who will only join them if they agree to save 70 refugees too.
Otherwise known as King Arthur, but not in Roman times.
Not in Roman times. Like it's very, very similar. And here now King Arthur, the movie King Arthur, was supposed to be a Michael Bay film. And Bay actually developed it for 5 years and then dropped out. And I can't remember exactly why he dropped out. So Fuqua was brought in to the project. So this was not his baby. This was not like, he didn't, oversee the script. He was not one of the progenitors. Like, he inherited this movie. And like someone saw Tears of the Sun and was just like, hey, that's a pretty good movie. Like, I bet you Fuqua could do this. And
I'm not surprised that this is, a Michael Bay jam beforehand. It's a Jerry Bruckheimer production. So, there's always going to be that sort of vibe. And if Bay drops out, they're going to bring in somebody that can give some of that feel to it.
And there was even a Michael Bay-esque shot towards the end.
Yes.
When King Arthur is facing up against the lead Saxon, and it's during the White Flag, and they're kind of like posturing each other. the camera starts to rotate around them super fast. And they're like, oh my God, maybe this is a Michael Bay film.
I think that what's intriguing about this is there are so many elements that, I mean, to speak to that, because we're a director focused podcast, as much as I love Fuqua as a director overall, I am struggling to find him in it. And maybe that's because he stepped into what was already a Michael Bay thing. Like, I look at this and there's nothing in here where I'm like, this is an Antoine Fuqua movie. I look at this and it feels very
Bruckheimer.
Bruckheimer, but like Bruckheimer striving to get to Kingdom of Heaven or Gladiator. Bruckheimer wants a little of that jam. That's the vibe here.
I mean, also it sounded like it. You have Hans Zimmer, and you get a lot of Gladiator, Pirates, all that mixed up. Like, nothing really popped out. It's like when you hear John Williams in the 90s. Like, it has a sound. Like, episode 1 kind of sounds like, other properties. Like, you can tell, like, he's really into this kind of instrument right now, and it kind of goes through these seasons. And a lot of Hans Zimmer. I mean, it's definitely its own score, but it sounds a lot like his work from the early 2000s.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's a decent score. It's not anything that like pops out, and I think there are so many things. The most interesting thing about the entire experience of watching it was that the first hour plus, I was really, really getting into it, and then it just sort of loses its focus in the back half. Even though we watched the director's cut.
Did you kind of feel the end should have been the fight on the ice? Because it kind of felt like the end. And I mean, it was a pretty big battle. And I knew there was still more to the movie, but I kind of could have let it go right then.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, where there's this big climactic moment. They make it through, and then it's an odd denouement to have like the real climactic battle afterward. Right. It feels like this is, I agree with you. I think that it would have maybe even been better to have them get through that climactic thing and then have the back half of the curve being setting up this idea that there's going to be romantic conflict between Lancelot and Arthur, and everything gets
another title card that says, "And the Saxons went home?" ? And it's just like, we never deal with it.
While somebody narrates over, but maybe they didn't. Maybe there was, And unfortunately, I can't ever hear the word Saxons without thinking of The Simpsons. When somebody says is asked about their heritage, and he says, "I guess it's when the Angles met the Saxons," and somebody replies, "You mean when white met bread?" So it's it is also the sort of thing where I think that one of the challenges here is that emotionally there are a lot of moments that are really close to getting an emotional reaction out of me.
Yes.
But the stuff leading up to it doesn't feel like it got the build necessary for me to care enough.
This one felt like, like I just got done watching the latest episode of the Great British Baking Show. And this...
I can't wait to see where this is going.
Oh, yeah. Strap in, guys, because it's going to be a roller coaster. This movie felt like somebody baking something where you have all of the right ingredients. You're getting some of the best ingredients. You're going to the store and you're getting top shelf items. You're like, this is going to be the best cake ever. And so you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, you study, you throw it in, you mix it together, but then when you bake it and everybody takes a taste, you're just like, it's all right. There's something, everything is there and it should work, but the spark is gone and I cannot put my finger on it. And I'm hoping that we can figure that out tonight.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Tristan, because John and I shared, but I think you're the only one of us who had seen this before. So got to ask, Riddell family classic or watched it in college, had your caught up to it?
Had your dad stopped fast forwarding certain scenes by 2004?
I was going to say,
still there to help you
by
out?
2004, we're getting past the whole family favorite thing because I'm off and away at that point. In 2004, 2004 is the year I graduated high school and started college. I actually saw this in the theater, and I was actually thinking as I was watching this again, because I've watched it a couple of times since.
This was a summer movie, July 7th. Okay.
Yeah, so this was the summer before I started my freshman year of college, and I saw it with a buddy of mine because he actually, my buddy saw it, and he's just like, I really like this movie. If you like Gladiator, you're gonna like this, that kind of thing. Like that's what he was all about. And I'm not saying he was accurate. I'm just saying that's what he said. I saw you, Darren. And so he took me to go see it, and I saw it. I remember liking it way more on the big screen. And I think this is one of those movies. Now, John, you talked about that last week.
Yeah.
About how you felt if you saw First Night on the big screen, you probably would have been able to forgive a few more things. And with this one, I think that was the case with me. I saw it on the big screen. I was just like, oh, that battle scene was fun. This was cool. Like this was a nice summer distraction when movies only cost $6 a ticket. And so you were able to forgive a little bit more because not every single movie needed to make $1 billion. Not every single movie needed to be a religious experience that, made you have faith in God and mankind. Like this was just, right. you just needed a sword and sandals kind of picture.
It made $200 million on a 120 budget, which is not terrible. It's not like
it's not great either, though.
It's not great, but yeah,
it's tax write-off category. Yeah. It's a push.
It doesn't cover another bad film. It just is neutral.
Nobody.
It's not even neutral yet.
Yeah. Well, nobody got fired over it. It was like, okay, well, let's try to make it up in the margins.
It didn't end his career, so that's good.
Yeah. And so with this one, it was, and I saw the PG-13 version because that's what was in the theater. And Fuqua and Bruckheimer, of course, were pissed that they had to make a PG-13 version. That Disney made them do that.
Yeah, they obviously
and that was actually one of the criticisms, right? And like that was one of the criticisms of the movie was they're like, oh man, there was no risk, there was no wager, there was all bloodless violence, and it was like, yeah, it's PG-13, so there's all these swiping of the swords, but there's no aftermath. Like no one loses a head, a limb. There's no blood spewing from a wound. It's all just a bunch of like lightsaber play.
That's not the version you had us watch, Tristan, because boy, oh boy, when this movie started, I'm like, well, we're just going to see all sorts of body parts chopped off and blood sprayed. My goodness.
So this is one of those times when the director's cut is not a completely different film. Like, there's so many director's cuts out there that are really just kind of like unrated cuts, where they just throw in a few more F words and a few more decapitations. Right. And that's kind of it.
5 shots that we had to put on the floor to make it a PG-13, and we're going to reverse that decision.
It's not even worth the effort of re-editing or putting it out and slapping a label of director's cut. This one is a little bit, I think it's justified to do it because the type of violence that it throws down changes the tone of the film. Like, this isn't just like a few gunshots here and there and someone dropping an F-bomb. This was, like, the violence has weight. Like, it actually feels like someone is battling and, killing and trying to save people or trying to kill people and everything like that. And also, he was able to, he actually removed a few scenes that were in the PG-13 version, in the theatrical cut, and reorganized. So it was much closer to his original vision, which I appreciate, because the love scene between Guinevere and Arthur was in a different place, and it actually fixed some continuity errors, and they also removed
it was so funny.
What?
Well, just when they're like, starting to get it on, all of a sudden it's like, it's like Arthur, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
But where?
And then it starts the whole final battle. Like he's really pissed, really upset.
But that's Tristan's point about the reordering. I did read about this. What you're talking about, Tristan, where like they put that earlier. I can't even imagine it in a different
I don't even know
spot.
where you would put it.
Apparently, it occurred later or something like that. It was like
it actually it occurred later. It was when he found out that there was not going to be any backup from the Romans.
Yeah.
Oh, so when the other people leave and it's just him and her behind.
Yeah, it was right before everybody left. It was like the night before that. It was weird. Yeah, no, it was weird. It was weird. And also that
Well-
okay, no, go ahead, Darren.
I was just gonna say, like, to your point also about the bloodiness, I felt it worked better because their whole like we're ready to get out, I think hit way stronger by seeing what battle was like for them. Whereas if it had been the PG-13 version of like, oh, I'm dead, like it's just like I'm like, yeah, they are done with war. They have put in their time. You know, I didn't know that the knights were from like Mongolia or whatever tribe, but
It wasn't
see
Mongolia.
that in and of itself is very interesting because I think you see a very, very super modern sensibility come in. Like it happened with Zucker's first night, and we talked about this, where it's like it moves from sacred charge from God above, Lady of the Lake sort of thing to, well, they were just very organized. There's a good secular system that they have every going. Yeah, sure, people believe in God, but we're not going to put it in your face sort of thing. And then this becomes, and I'm not saying this in a negative way at all. I'm just saying like it just popped in my brain as this is the multicultural King Arthur. And what I mean by that is he specifically asked at one point, you haven't converted any of these people. And he basically says, I will respect the tradition that they came from. It doesn't matter to me what they believe. It matters to me that they fight. And it's like that in and of itself is so not period accurate. Like that's the biggest air horn of this is not real history.
That's like Arthur
sort of
being
thing.
like, Crusades, why would I force my religion on others? Like, why would I, Arthur?
I would never
known.
go off
I would
to
never.
search for the Grail. No, I would never take part in that.
That's true. Oh, man.
But at the same time, like I don't have a negative with it because you have
changed it enough already.
It's the time.
They're already Romans. I already don't care that they're not going on the Crusades.
But the thing is, additionally, like if you're going to put it where it's the Romans didn't really care that, like the Romans, before it was Holy Roman Empire, the Romans were like, no, pay your taxes and whatever,
render to Caesar.
Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's sort of thing. But yeah, they were like, do your thing. But if we show up and we tell you to stop doing a thing, that's when you got to stop doing a thing. But we'll tend to leave you alone as long as you're producing. Don't be like Carthage. Carthage is who you don't want to be in the scenario. But like, it's one of those things where it feels both historically inaccurate, but also
historically plausible.
Okay. It's okay. Right? Like, because Arthur's group here they're not knights they're basically like a commando squad, Tears of the Sun, like you said, Tristan. And you don't care what your crack commando squad believes so long as they can get the job done.
They're not saying that Einstein once had a beer with Elvis after a weekend bender. Like it's not that kind of.
Oh, you've seen The Hangover Part 4. Okay.
Yeah. So I know that's an absurd example, but it's one of those things where you're like, I guess somebody could be like that. It kind of goes against the sentimentality of the time, but okay.
I mean,
it's one of those
a lot of times
situations.
they call them knights, and I'm like, but they're kind of not. Like, they don't look like knights. But again, they've committed to the bit. Like, they've committed to the Romanness and all of that. So I'm like, okay, I'm on board. You threw narration and text at me, so I get it, what's going on. But yeah, I think it did do a good job of not sticking its finger back in the Arthurian legend, like over and over. It's like, no, we're going to tell our own story, like because it's so. Or maybe it stuck its finger in there a couple times.
I was gonna say, I don't know about that one, because if they really didn't want to stick their finger into it, they wouldn't have involved Merlin and Guinevere. Like, if they just
Merlin
wanted...
was just a name at that point. Like, there was nothing magical
Guinevere.
about him.
Yeah, but that's what's annoying about even saying the name Merlin.
Yeah,
like it feels so perfunctory and cheap. Whereas like, and Merlin is their leader, and it's like,
and there's a rumor that he's a magician. You're like, oh, okay,
okay. Like I would have preferred, honestly, for the structure to just have Guinevere be like the warrior queen. You just commit to it. Just have her be the leader in that scenario, and then just fully embrace it. You've decided to make her that way anyway, so just have her be the warrior queen, fully know Merlin, and then their marriage even carries more weight at the end of it.
Okay, let's jump ahead to the end, because I want to talk about that. So originally there was no wedding scene.
Oh,
It
in
ended
in the theatrical.
I actually no. I think there was a wedding scene in the theatrical cut, but originally I'm surprised that it's still there in the director's cut because Fuqua wanted a much more kind of dire ending, a much darker ending where Lancelot's dead, Tristan's dead, and Guinevere and Arthur are just kind of sitting there, like what do we do now? And Arthur says something heroic. I can't remember exactly. And then we just kind of end on the shot of the graves, and that's it. That's the movie. If I'm remembering correctly. But then, like, the producers are like, "No, you got to do something. You can't end on that note. You got to do something." And so they have this wedding. And watching it this time, after seeing so many different versions of King Arthur, as we have for these past couple of weeks, and then watching this version, and then I'm seeing the wedding, and I'm like, what political purpose does this wedding serve?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because Guinevere is not a queen of anything. She's the daughter of a loose leader of Merlin, of the Woads, which is a completely made up name.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as the Woads. They were the Picts. And
yeah, but Fuqua's reasoning originally was that Picts would have been a weird word for people to say, but then I forget who it was, maybe the writer or something said like, well, it was supposed to denote sort of like a pejorative that you would throw at an enemy, like just like a slang term where you're like, they're just a bunch of woads, right?
Oh, they should have made that clear. I mean, like,
yes.
John,
put another title card
agree.
up. More narration. Explain it to us.
I think it's pretty clear that all historians agree that, like Picts is, I'm just totally messing with you.
Well, the important thing is that we definitely needed to have that narration at the end with the running horses where they go, but don't be sad because they're no, don't be sad. Their names carried on. Bye. And then credits.
Well, like, I mean, my only thing for the
motherfucking horse.
Well, the other thing with the wedding, I totally see what you're saying, Tristan, about like what,
and the Romans are gone, so King Arthur is a leader of nothing.
Well, and that's the thing. They're like all of Britain, and I'm like, wait. Britain's pretty big, and you guys are maybe like 100 people in this corner. Like, there's no united Britain.
I can answer this. Once the Romans left, there were very few people left in Britain.
I mean, that could be true.
You could rule the whole island with 100 people. There you go.
And there you go. They did,
all explain. That's my headcanon.
Again, but see, the thing is, this was made by a non-British person because no British person would ever dare say this is like how our country started.
But like, it's one of those things where as much fun as I'm having, sort of like kicking at it, I want to go back to the fact that the first like hour and 20 minutes, I was fully committed to this. I was really digging this. And I don't know if it's because Fuqua came in. I don't know if there was too much meddling. I don't know specifically where it happens. Like, at what point in the process does it happen where they just lose control and suddenly it's like, I'm not quite sure where this is going. How early in the process could they have caught this? Should they have caught this? Or could they have even caught it, with him coming in so late? Is this just something where no matter who stepped in, this was going to get a little messy at the end? And I want to be very clear, again, while I'm offering these criticisms, if you take these pieces, I enjoyed the battles so much. I even enjoyed the final battle so much that like it redeemed it a lot because I was like, I like what's happening right now. I like watching what I'm watching. When I step back and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it in the context of like a storytelling thing, then I start looking at the problems, but in the moment I have less of a problem with it. And it's like, I don't know if that's just a function of the development of this was just too messy and nobody could save it to make it like the big classic that the Kingdom of Heaven director's cut is, or something like that.
Well, apparently halfway through filming, Bruckheimer sent his assistant to a local DVD store and bought Excalibur, Braveheart, Lawrence of Arabia, Waterloo, Glory, Ran, and Paths of Glory, and gave them to Fuqua and said, okay, watch this. Watch these. And he did, and the reason why he watched them is to get a better handle on large-scale battle scenes. So you could probably the reason why you like that last scene, that last battle scene so much is probably because he did his homework. Like Fuqua did his homework. But
it's an amazing
halfway
battle
through
scene.
filming.
There's tactics. There's some like when they send the first flank through and they all die and you hear them from the other side of the wall, like, and then they're quiet. You're like, oh dang, like that's like some psychological warfare there.
But that would actually, I think, explain why it seems to lose some of its emotional punch. Is because if suddenly in the midst of filming, you have to replan or come up with a new approach to your big climactic battle scene, you're diverting all of your mental energy to something else than making me care the most I can about the characters.
I think for me, it started to go off the rails when Guinevere met up with Merlin at the campsite.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that's when it started to get weird. When
she's all tattooed up and like ready for war, like that part, or was that earlier?
No. When Merlin first talks with King Arthur.
Oh, that's right. Where she brings him to him and like, oh, he's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
And
that felt like it was a part of a different movie to me.
Now I felt like obviously, so that was Merlin in the trees that he saw at the very beginning, right? When he looks across the way. Because the vibe I got when he spares the guy's life, he's about to kill like the last guy in the first skirmish, and he looks across, and so I get it now that that's Merlin, it's the leader, whatever. The vibe I got, which was really interesting, it's kind of sad that wasn't the case, but like or maybe it was, but the vibe I got was that was that soldier's father. And it was kind of like looking across the battlefield and seeing the father in the trees and being like, I'm choosing to spare your son because I don't want to take this isn't a combatant anymore. This is someone's son. And I've seen enough of death.
I think the visual language supports you in that. I took it the same way where I was like, yes, they established that's Merlin. I'm like, oh, that's Merlin's son. And this is our first step toward Arthur saying, look, we can be
okay,
people
that's true. It
to
does
each
work
other.
both ways, yeah.
And it would have been nice to have it more clearly laid out so that you have another father-son that he goes up against, and
which he does.
But like if it's very clear that it's like you understand the importance of the father-son relationship there, and then you encounter this other father-son relationship, and it's like, no, there's no mercy for you because I don't want peace with your father. I want you gone. I want all of you gone. Then suddenly it makes it heavier. But the thing is, since that doesn't communicate, the presence of the son is a distraction. And I think that Skarsgård as the villain, I want more of that guy. I don't want his son. I don't want to build to him.
I want
him through the
Eric
whole movie
to come and kick our butts.
Right. And he cuts such a great figure with like that cloak and the beard and the hair.
Well, his line, like voice. Finally someone worth killing. It's like, dang. Like, and he's a tactician. Like he knows his strength is the size of his army, but he also doesn't throw it away. Like he doesn't care killing people like within his own army, but he's not going to like throw the entire thing away.
I like that you bring that up because I do agree with you. I agree with all those points.
Which of the many points did you like that I said?
about Stellan Skarsgård's character being a tactician.
Yeah.
And being, like he very much plays it like he's bored with war, that he's just kind of
like,
going
I'm
through
going
the motions.
to win. It's just a matter of time. Okay, let's start the sequence.
Yeah. But then when he meets King Arthur, he's like, oh, fantastic. He literally puts his arms in the air in excitement. But I like that what you said about him being a tactician, because I always thought it was weird to me that he was the one who killed Tristan, because Tristan is clearly the best swordsman of the group. And
he's got two swords.
No, that's Lancelot.
No, Lancelot has two swords.
Oh, no, you're right. Sorry.
So Tristan is they build him up to be the best swordsman.
Mads Mikkelsen.
And then he's taken out by the big bad, but they didn't really show the big bad as being this fantastic hand-to-hand warrior. Is really just this ominous presence with an army. And so it was really weird to me that it took Arthur to take down him and not Tristan. I felt like Tristan should have died in a different way.
maybe
on the
Tristan was
battlefield.
there to elevate him to a hand-to-hand combat threat. Because like you said, we haven't seen
Yes.
him fight, so it wouldn't have made less. It makes him more threatening when he does the second fight against Arthur. Whereas, but I see what you're saying too.
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that's why they did that. Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with the way that it plays out, because Tristan also winds up wounding him in such a way that you get the sense that, as great as Arthur is, his knight is still helping him in death. Because his knight,
he got a stab to the inside at the very last moment,
and to the leg too, right?
And the
or
leg,
something
that's
like that.
right.
Yeah. So it's like it makes it possible for Arthur to win that battle. I will also say that as critical as I can be of these sorts of things that feel like boardroom decisions, I appreciated the fact that when Keira Knightley took out that nameless lieutenant who's elevated above the sun at one point or whatever, that we saw other female warriors come in and help her out. And I laughed because, thanks to Avengers Endgame,
right.
I have my low, like the bar you had to clear. I was like, that was more effective than what they did in Endgame. Cool. All right. That's a win. I got that. There's nobody sitting there. It's like nobody's sitting there grabbing him going, girl power. It's just a thing that happened, and I'm allowed to just visually see it.
Guess what? If you want to take out this giant man, maybe gang up on him. It's a solid tactic.
Exactly. But it also establishes that Guinevere herself she's not so uncommon, that there are women who fight in this battle. And therefore,
but
it's
you're
not
a
like
woman.
she's the...
How could you fight? You not know about the ways of war? It's like, no, we don't do any of that.
Well, speaking of kind of studio decisions and producers' notes when it comes to Keira Knightley, there was some controversy when this movie came out because the American poster of her gave her a much bigger chest than what she has in real life and what she has in the movie. And it's ridiculous if you've seen it, because in the movie, her chest is practically strapped down because she's about to go into battle. And Keira Knightley is small-chested, but in the American poster, even though she didn't show up until the 52-minute mark in the American poster, she is front and center with a large chest.
I think in the what is it, where they're promoting the film, I think she even called it out, and she's pointing it, and she's going this is all airbrush. There's nothing. This is all fantasy. None of this is real. And
I don't remember that.
I in some interview she said that she points to the poster and is like, this is not real.
Yeah,
I'm not saying we need to spend any time on it. I'm just saying it's a thing that happened, and it's an interesting touchstone for this movie. So let's talk about the cast a little bit. Let's talk about the casting, because that was one thing that, when I gave my baking analogy, because we have Clive Owen as Arthur, Keira Knightley as Guinevere, I can't pronounce his name, Ian Griffith as Lancelot.
Nobody can. Just say Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic. That's all
Mr.
I saw.
Fantastic,
I mean, he's in that movie the following year, and he looked like they did nothing. This is Mr. Fantastic in cosplay is what I saw.
Yes.
But
we got Mads Mikkelsen as Tristan, Joel Edgerton as Gawain, Hugh Dancy as Galahad, Ray Winstone as Bors, and the late Ray Stevenson as Dagonet, Stellan Skarsgård as Surdik, and holy crap, what a cast.
It's a hell of a cast. And the thing is, I felt shortchanged because the Stevenson stuff was really interesting, especially when he bonds with the young child. I wanted more, and I didn't get it. And that was one of those things where I just felt like, even with this being a director's cut, I was like, is there more of this there?
There should have been.
Where I care so much more, or I care so much more when one Ray is mourning the other Ray on the battlefield. That's one of those things where I just wish there had been more to hold on to, because you have powerhouse acting going on here, and it just feels like the material doesn't live up to the talent available. And I think that's just one of the challenges of the film, because the moments that those actors are given to shine, they do. they're just not given enough moments to shine.
And they do a good job with the costuming. Like I always felt I could identify each knight, which they could all look totally the same. Like they could make that mistake, but it's like, okay, you're the one with the bald head with the, the curved knives. Okay. And you're the one with the bird. And I mean, you learn their names, and their names, half of them are from the legend, but I think that they did really well. I also
never get tired of that stuff.
Where they show like, oh, we're all that's left. Like this table used to be full. Like that's a really interesting shot of the round table.
It is a really interesting shot. I agree with you. The idea that like they've been whittled down to their final members is really cool. And I'm on the fence about whether more attention should be brought to it with just some dialogue of like, this table used to be full. Okay. Why are you asking us to do anything else versus just have it be there and let me work with it and be like, man, these guys have really been through a lot, And
I feel like you really get that sense. You really, John, you talked about, when they're given that, or it might've been you, Darren, where they give them moments to shine, they really shine. And I think the scene where Arthur comes to the party after everybody's celebrating and everything like that, and has to be the person to give the bad news, they're all losing their minds. Especially Galahad.
Yeah.
He's just like, we can't
DONE done.
Yeah. Just like, it's like game over, man. Like, we can't do this anymore. And I felt like the scene right before that, when Ray Winstone's wife or mother of his children.
Yeah. And he's like, he's got singing. A brood. He's got so many kids.
Yeah. And when she's singing that she has such a lovely voice, and it's such an amazing message to the songs. Like you feel it, like just the music alone. You look at Winstone and he's crying. All the other characters are just really soaking it in, realizing that they're gonna go home. And then Arthur tells them that they're not. And I love it how the scene ends with like Winstone losing his mind, just screaming. And he's like, and Gawain goes, he's like, well, you're gonna come. He's like, oh, I'm gonna come.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, to their credit, like that scene, the scene where they all ride up in full armor to him on the hill, like this movie plays those moments really well. Like it would be very easy to miss the mark. You have to nail those moments where your characters are making those choices, because like we all know they're gonna come back. Like we're not surprised by that. But there's that kind of moment where I think it was Ray Winston again, where he's like calling out to Arthur on it was almost kind of like a, do you want me to come? And they cheer, and then he rides back to not go at that moment. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they're not going. And then I thought, oh, are they going to do a feint where they're all leaving, but they're all planning on coming back? And obviously they do come back, but through the choice. They self-choose. And at the end, they're rightfully so kind of taken aback by Arthur, because Arthur is like, I am now saying this is my land. And that's kind of what they're all realizing, is that, yeah, this is their land. Like what 15 years ago home do they really want to go back to?
Yeah.
That was the moment where I was kind of like, why didn't they choose that moment to go run up to the hill? Like it felt like there was kind of some wasted space in between those two moments.
Little, I think I was okay with the direction they took because that gave space for Guinevere. I think if they were all there with him, like we need to see Guinevere kind of, and then the other, I can just call them the tree people, but the other tribe coming out, like it's
Ewoks.
Like, oh,
just call them Ewoks.
They're gonna help out, and they're making plans, and they're like creating smoke and mist, which was really awesome.
A smoke screen. I love it, because that has that feeling of authenticity as well. It's like, oh, look, they're creating a smoke screen so that people can get away and they can't see what's going on. This is just such an interestingly frustrating sort of movie to try to break down, because there are so many pieces that work. Tristan, to your question, though, is like, why don't they just go? Like, I think there could have been dialogue. Like, they choose these scenes of people just looking at each other. It would have been nice to see the other knights sort of gather together, and one of them say, listen, what's it worth being free if we know he's in trouble? like just a piece of dialogue
or
to
something
have
like,
them go back to him.
I can't even really remember what the
Right.
grass looked like at home,
Right.
because they
Yes.
probably don't. Like, they kind of have kept it hype in their mind for years.
Yes.
But like, so something like that where they're like, you know what? I can't even remember what our hut used to look like.
Right.
But that
No,
man over there has bled for us, or something. Short line, and then you just rides off, and they're all just like, okay, well, I guess,
Or-
and then they show up in the full armor.
Heck, you could have had somebody like look around and be like, in my dreams, my dad actually looks like Arthur. And everybody would be like, yeah, like, and give that sort of like weight to it, where it's like, Arthur's our real dad. He's been leading us and modeling life for us this
Or Tristan
whole time.
lets the bird go and is like, you're free, and it just flies straight over to Arthur and perches on him. It's like, well, okay, the bird says.
That actually, you say that as a joke, but that kind of would have been cool. Like
That would have
No,
been
I think
pretty
that
neat.
would have been cool. I do want to slip in. I also liked how they had the sword and the stone moment. It was quick. And it was simple. It was in the flashback where he's pulling the sword from his dead father's, grave, and that moment of strength, like when his, mom's being killed. But like, because I totally forgot about that part of the story because they're Romans, guys. I didn't know if you knew, but they're Romans. But I like that. It worked out. I felt that worked for. This isn't Excalibur. It's not all about the sword, but there was a moment, and that's all we needed.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I feel like we've done a nice cross section of this movie. We talked a lot about what didn't work, but we didn't just kick it while it was down. We talked about what we liked and what did work and what excelled. And I think we all agree that we would have liked to have seen more brotherhood throughout the movie instead of just at the beginning. So, Darren, you're going to go last. Actually, no, you're going to go second because John, you're going to go first. How many hawks flying through the air are you giving this picture?
This might surprise a lot of people, but I would give this a 3 because I could see myself putting this on the air and just having it on in the background, maybe not really paying close attention to it, but tuning in every time there's stuff that works. Like the first hour, I'm pretty much going to be invested in, and like the back half, I know I can like, you know what, I'll work while I'm doing this sort of thing. So this lands with a respectable 3, which outside of Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the highest rating I have given a King Arthur movie to this point.
Darren, what about you?
I'm actually also going to give it a 3. Not because John gave it a 3. I
don't believe you.
Just on a wavelength, man. We're on a wavelength.
No, but it's funny. Like, as we were critiquing this movie, that's what we did. We critiqued it. We weren't tearing it apart. It had a lot of good stuff in it, and I think it ripped off the Band-Aid real fast at the very beginning, kind of setting it in Roman times, because there was definitely I'm like, what is going on? But once they committed to the bit, I'm like, okay, it's kind of like how you have like High Noon, but it could be in space, or it could be in the desert, or it could be like it's an archetypal story. They're keeping it really close to Britain, but it is kind of just pushing it into a different era, which is fine. And they have the same names and all of that, but no, I think it totally worked. And I also agree with John. Like, if this came on, not that I watch broadcast television, but if it came on, like, I would watch this again. It was enjoyable. Even the blood, it was gore, but it wasn't grotesque. Like, I don't know how they were shooting it, because you saw heads and legs and arms getting chopped off and blood spray, but it didn't linger on it like modern gore does. It was something they found this happy medium of like, I feel the impact of it, but I'm not like I'm not disturbed by it. It was just, maybe that's something from 04. Like, that's the magical sweet spot of, violence without, gluttony. So I enjoyed this. I think, Mr. Fantastic's always going to be Mr. Fantastic. I'm sorry. It's just what his face looks like. I can't look past that, but But I love the parts between him and Arthur. There were a lot of good dialogue pieces. And I really, everyone I wanted to die did die. Like the Roman, dad totally needed to die. And I loved how he got killed. I love the snitch who was up in the tree and just got nailed by that 50,000 yard arrow shot. It's like, it was just so satisfying.
All right. Well, I am coming close to you guys. I'm giving this a 2.5. This is a straight down the middle rating. This is on Letterboxd, I call it mediocre, where it's not great, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just okay. This is just an okay film to me. Like, this could have been so much better. All the pieces were there, but it needed to be reorganized a little bit and maybe a few more rounds on the script. And I know we joked about how it was trying to be Gladiator. This was actually written by the same man who wrote Gladiator.
Yeah. That
so
does not surprise me.
Yeah, that needed to be mentioned. So there we are, 2 3s and a 2.5, and nowhere near as much fighting as we had last week with our first night podcast.
And
next
less
week,
visual explanations. So
next week
True.
we're concluding our wing of King Arthur, and we're jumping into a new decade with 2017's King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, directed by Guy Ritchie.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.